Cannabis Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind its prohibition.
Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Cannabis Common Sense. It is August the 9th, 2013, and I'd like to welcome my joint host, Mr. Casper Leach. Howdy, Casper.
Howdy, howdy. Happy Friday.
And sitting by as our musical entertainer tonight is Mr. John Cornett. Howdy, John.
Hey, Paul, how you doing? Good to see you.
Very well, very well. And we have a great hemp news segment, a little bit of Jorge Cervantes. There's a lot of things happening all around the world, and we'll get to that in just a minute after we bring on our infamous dancing cannabis leaves.
I feel the force.
In what many have called a blatant abuse of power that strips Americans of their fundamental constitutional rights, the Drug Enforcement Administration is collaborating with the National Security Agency, the Central Intelligence Agency, and other agencies to spy on American citizens in the name of the war on drugs. Moreover, according to an exclusive Reuters investigation, DEA agents are actively creating false investigative trails to disguise where the information originated, a scheme that prosecutors, defense attorneys, judges, and others are arguing has robbed defendants of their right to a fair trial. Hundreds of thousands of cases could be affected. According to Ethan Nadelman of the Drug Policy Alliance, quote, "The DEA increasingly qualifies as a rogue agency, one that Congress needs to immediately investigate. This latest scandal may well be just the tip of the iceberg," end quote. The scandal, which comes in the wake of revelations that the federal government is collecting sensitive information on hundreds of millions of innocent Americans, is just one crisis of credibility the DEA faces. Other DEA scandals include, last week, the DEA settled a $4.1 million lawsuit with Donald Chung, a University of California, San Diego student who was left unattended and unfed in a holding cell for 5 days and in intensive care for 3 days after that. Members of Congress and the human rights groups continue to call on the DEA to answer questions about DEA-assisted drug war operation last year in Honduras that led to the massacre of 4 indigenous civilians. In 2011, as part of the Department of Justice's Fast and Furious scandal, it was revealed that DEA agents had smuggled or laundered millions of dollars in drug profits for the Mexican drug cartels as part of an ongoing sting operation that appears to have been perilously close to facilitating crime instead of preventing it. Defense attorneys in Arizona are claiming government misconduct because the DEA has rehired Andrew Chambers, a government informant who was terminated by the Justice Department years ago amid accusations of serial perjury. The DEA continues to be criticized by local, state, and federal elected officials for interference in state efforts to provide medical marijuana to cancer, HIV, AIDS, MS, and other patients. DEA Administrator Michelle Leinart, who has direct ties to the Andrew Chambers scandal and other scandals, most notably the House of Death scandal, in which a DEA informant helped murder at least a dozen people in Juarez, Mexico, has on several occasions ignored science and overruled the DEA's own administrative law judges to advance an ideological agenda. This year marks the 40th anniversary of President Richard Nixon's creation of the DEA. Critics of the war on drugs note that over the last 40 years, Congress has rarely held hearings on the DEA, its actions, and its efficacy. 3 presidential administrations have conducted reviews of whether it would be more efficient and better for public safety to merge the DEA with the FBI, President Carter, Reagan, and Clinton. But Congress has never seriously explored the issue. Ethan Nadelman, again with the Drug Policy Alliance says, quote, "It's remarkable how little scrutiny the DEA faces from Congress or other federal overseers. With an annual budget of over $2 billion, as well as a significant discretionary power, the DEA certainly merits a top-to-bottom review of its operations, expenditures, and discretionary actions," end quote. Well, next weekend, we have the world's largest hemp celebration in the world. Is it a protestival or a celebration? Seattle Hemp Fest will be a little of both this year as attendees mark the historic passage of Washington and Colorado's marijuana legalization initiatives in 2012. As many as 250,000 cannabis enthusiasts, including us, are expected to attend the 22nd year of the nation's largest annual free speech event in Myrtle Edwards Park and on the Puget Sound waterfront near the Space Needle in downtown Seattle. Next Friday, August 16th through the 18th. By the way, we won't have a live show that night. Using the human microphone, call and response pattern of communication that was employed in Occupy Wall Street demonstrations, organizers plan to send a message to President Obama that it's time to end the plant's designation as a Schedule I substance under the Uniform Controlled Substances Act. According to Vivian McPeak, quote, "More deaths are caused each year by tobacco use than by all deaths from HIV, illegal drug use, alcohol use, motor vehicle injuries, suicide, and murders combined." McPeak is the HempFest executive director. He went on, quote, "Alcohol use is the third leading lifestyle-related cause of death for the nation, yet these two dangerous drugs have been exempted from the federal schedule entirely. Pot prohibition is a lesson in hypocrisy. There's never been a single reported death from an overdose or toxic reaction to marijuana, and we intend to send a message to the president straight from the mouths of 100,000 Americans that it's time to entirely remove marijuana from the federal schedule, just like tobacco and alcohol," end quote. Politicians that have admitted to recreational marijuana use following prohibition include mayors, governors, members of the United States House of Representatives, senators, Presidents Bill Clinton, G.W. Bush, and Barack Obama. Prohibitionist policies have lowered street prices, emboldened the black market, and have been a catastrophic failure as a deterrent to use. Marijuana prohibition cost U.S. taxpayers nearly $42 billion per year in criminal justice costs and in lost tax revenues. The taxpayer return on investment is America's designation as the largest jailer of citizens per capita in the world, while marijuana use skyrockets nationwide. A complete list of Seattle HempFest extensive cadre of speakers, including former Alaska Senator Mike Gravel, Eugene Ahn, an assistant professor at University of Miami's Department of Veterans Affairs Medical Center, and Steve D'Angelo, executive director of Oakland's Harborside Health Clinic, can be found online at hempfest.org. A couple of the speakers will be Casper Leach and myself as well. Marijuana sales are prohibited at the Seattle Hemp Fest in urban protest action, and McPeak said the rule will be heavily enforced. So that's the end of our hemp there. Well, actually, we have another story. CNN medical correspondent Dr. Sanjay Gupta has reversed his position on medical marijuana. The former staunch opponent of cannabis now endorses its use in a new essay in an upcoming documentary. Gupta said, quote, "We've been terribly and systematically misled for nearly 70 years in the United States, and I apologize for my own role in that," end quote. Gupta, who penned a 2009 article in Time magazine titled "Why I Would Vote No on Pot," wrote this recently for CNN. Gupta wrote, quote, "I didn't look hard enough until now. I didn't look far enough. I was too dismissive of the loud chorus of legitimate patients whose symptoms improved on cannabis," end quote. The research for Gupta's upcoming documentary film, Weed, required that he speak to medical leaders, experts, growers, and patients. He now believes that it doesn't have a high potential for abuse, and there are very legitimate medical applications. He said, quote, "In fact, sometimes marijuana is the only thing that works," end quote. Gupta pointed to research indicating that only 9 to 10% of adult marijuana users become dependent, as compared to 20% of cocaine users, 25% of heroin users, and 30% of tobacco users. The doctors did maintain that developing brains are more likely susceptible to harm from marijuana than adult brains, and that regular marijuana use by teenagers could lead to problems. He said, quote, much in the same way I wouldn't let my own child drink alcohol, I wouldn't permit marijuana until they're adults. If they are adamant about trying marijuana, I'll urge them to wait until they're in their mid-20s when their brains are more fully developed, end quote. Gupta specifically endorsed the use of cannabis to treat cancer, neuropathic pain, and post-traumatic stress, or PTSD. He said, quote, it is irresponsible not to provide the best care we can as a medical community, care that could involve marijuana, end quote. We have a little film clip from Gupta's appearance on CNN a couple of nights ago on the Piers Morgan Show. So we're going to run that film clip. We'll be back in just a moment.
Dr. Sanjay Gupta's documentary, Weed, which airs on CNN this Sunday night. Sanjay spent a year investigating the fight over medical marijuana. More and more Americans are using it. Just a few days ago, Washington, D.C. opened up its first medical marijuana dispensary. And CNN's chief medical correspondent, Dr. Sanjay Gupta, joins me now. Sanjay, welcome to you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, come on, you've been looking at this for a year, and I want to remind you that in 2009, you wrote a Time magazine article entitled Why I Would Vote No on Pot. You've changed your mind.
I have, and as part of my thinking recently, I've apologized for some of the earlier reporting because I think we've been terribly and systematically misled in this country for some time, and I did part of that misleading. If you look at all the papers that are written in the United States about marijuana, the vast majority of them are about the harm. That we fund studies on harm, we don't fund studies on benefit nearly as much. So it gives a distorted picture. But I didn't look far enough, I didn't look deep enough, I didn't look at labs in other countries that are doing some incredible research, I didn't listen to the chorus of patients who said, not only does marijuana work for me, it's the only thing that works for me. I took the DEA at their word when they said it's a Schedule I substance and has no medical applications. There was no scientific basis for them to say that.
So when New York Mayor Bloomberg was quoted as saying medical marijuana is the greatest hoax of all time, what do you say to him?
I'm surprised, I follow a lot of the mayor's comments quite closely. I listen to those comments as well. As part of those same comments, he was saying that the potency of marijuana has gone up. That is true. It has gone up probably over the last several years. But I urge him to look at the scientific papers. I was just looking at them again in preparation for your show. The science is there. This isn't anecdotal. This isn't in the realm of conjecture anymore. I mean, for a long time, we've just ignored these papers. But this was a drug, that was used for thousands of years.
Now, in your documentary, you get into the effects of medical marijuana, which sometimes can be quite instant. It's quite dramatic.
It really can. It works, and it can work very quickly. In fact, let me just show you.
I always have two strains.
Meet 19-year-old Chaz Moore. He uses many different strains of marijuana, many of them high in CBD, to treat his rare disorder of the diaphragm.
My abs will lock up.
That's why he's talking this way, almost speaking in hiccups, like he can't catch his breath. It's called myoclonus diaphragmatic flutter.
This fluttering here, it's annoying, but it becomes painful pretty quickly, I imagine.
Yeah, after 15, 20 minutes, this is where I can start to really feel it.
He's about to show me how the marijuana works. He's been convulsing now for 7 minutes.
How quickly do you expect this to work?
Within the first 5 minutes. And I'm done.
That's it.
That's it.
It was actually less than a minute.
Depending on the attack in the day.
I mean, that is pretty extraordinary.
He was on so many different meds, Piers. It was a table full of meds that doctors had prescribed for him for this condition, including OxyContin, Valium. Any of those medications in too high a dose could have been really problematic, and they didn't work. I mean, look, the proof is becoming increasingly clear, I think, if you look for it.
So that is Dr. Sanjay Gupta on CNN. There's a special coming on Sunday night that the doctor's been producing over the past year called Weed. In fact, I provided a number of our photos of our bottles to the CNN producers, and they said our organization, THCF, will get credit in the Weed series for those photos and some other information. In fact, when I first had the CNN crews and Joe Johns from Anderson Cooper's show come to our garden about 3 years ago, I said I wanted to debate Dr. Gupta about that article in Time magazine that I referred to in the Hemp News segment a moment ago. But Gupta came on immediately after the segment in which I appeared and changed his tone from that article, which had appeared maybe 6 months beforehand, and he's been coming around more and more ever since. And we're very proud to have been able to contribute some to that and to provide photos of our bottle collection for the CNN production. We have a couple more hemp news stories. The war on marijuana has claimed another victim, a 2-year-old little girl who was taken away from her parents because they smoked pot in their Round Rock, Texas home. She died Monday night, 7 months after being placed in an abusive foster home. Alexandria Hill was taken away from Joshua Hill and his wife for neglectful supervision simply because they admitted using marijuana while the child slept. She was placed in an abusive foster home contracted by the Child Protective Services. Joshua Hill told local television station KVUE TV, quote, she would come to visitation with bruises on her and mold and mildew in her bag. It got to the point where I actually told CPS they would have to have me arrested because I wouldn't let her go back, end quote. Alexandria was placed in a second foster home with Cheryl Small in Rockdale, Texas 7 months ago. The toddler was rushed to a hospital Monday night with severe head injuries. On Wednesday night, she was taken off life support and died. The Middleton, Connecticut Common Council has approved a medical marijuana growing facility to lease a 15,000 square foot city-owned building at their regular meeting on Monday. The council approved a lease with Greenbelt Management, which must still get a state license before it can begin growing cannabis, according to the Middleton Press. Greenbelt would be leasing space on the second floor of the Remington Rand building at 180 Johnson Street in Middleton, Connecticut. The measure passed 6-3 with Mary Bartlett abstaining. So the city of Middleton's going to rent city facilities to cultivate marijuana in Connecticut. The move comes 2 weeks after the town of West Haven approved similar plans for cannabis cultivation. A year ago, the Connecticut legislature approved a bill legalizing medical marijuana, and Governor Daniel P. Malloy signed it into law. Regulations are still being drafted, but the Department of Consumer Protection said it plans to eventually certify between 3 and 10 secured cannabis cultivation facilities to supply licensed dispensaries. The law requires the growers have to pay a $25,000 licensing fee to the state of Connecticut. That's the end of our hemp news segment tonight. We're going to go over to Mr. John Cornett. How are you tonight, John?
Oh, brother, I'm okay, everything considered. You know, my dearly beloved Judy took a little flip off a ladder, and but for the grace of God, she gets to be here with us. She could have fell. It could have been worse, but you know, I can say that I'm very grateful that we have doctors who know what they're doing, hospitals that are there when somebody goes down hard. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. This is a little song in answer to what we were just talking about here. You know, we've been right all along. This is called We Are Many. We are many, we are strong. Can so many be so wrong? Giving in to too many lies. Doesn't anybody really care why? Can it be that we are right? Can we be peaceful through this fight? All we really want to see is humanity set free. We are one big family. Once united, we are free. Now's the time to make us stand and do the best that each one can. That's right. Once awakened, we will see the potential of infinity, and abundance will be the norm when we are finally through this storm. Can that we are right? Can we be peaceful through this fight? All we really want to see is humanity set free. We are one big family, once united, we are free. Now's the time to make a stand, do the best that each one can. One more time. We're one big family, once united, we are free. Now's the time to make a stand, do the best that each one can.
Thank you, John. Mr. John Cornett.
We are many.
Welcome to the show, Casper.
Welcome.
Welcome, you viewers. If you're listening in tonight, it's the 9th of August, 2013. You can call us at 503-288-4442. We're taking your calls about ending adult marijuana prohibition, helping medical marijuana patients, and restoring hemp. So give us a call at 503-288-4442 if you can contribute. I got a little choked up on that story about the 2-year-old there.
Oh, well, you're one of those people who thinks kids are cute, so that's not surprising, you know. For those people who love kids, that was a sad story. What made me sad in your story was the ignorance of the journalism department of CNN. Here we have a leading news company that hires leading journalists. And journalists by trade are supposed to be an inquiring mind that doesn't take face value anything given.
That's not why they hire them, though.
Well,
they hire them to spout the corporate line.
Well,
they do not hire journalists. You know, the freedom of press belongs to those who own the press. That's why we make this show. That's why we
That's
put out
true.
our
That's
news
why
on
we
the
need
internet,
American
why you
Freedom
make
Radio.
your radio show, because we own those shows, and we can create more media and try to put it out there.
Yeah,
and
well.
obviously, though, something's changing with Gupta. I'm glad to see, you know, like I said, when I first was interviewed for that Anderson Cooper show, I told their reporter, Joe Johns, I really wanted to talk to Gupta because I disagreed with him strongly about the article he wrote in Time magazine, and it had an impact. He came out immediately after that and said then, back in 2009, that he had changed his mind, which was a breakthrough back then. But finally now, he's gone beyond that. He's done something much more dramatic. He's created an hour documentary that's being featured in the news and the media and CNN. It's an hour of the truth about marijuana in a very influential medium. CNN is one of the leading news outlets in not just the United States, but the world.
You can jump up and down, I'm excited. You're like, I know that if he would have just taken a minute, listened to Hugh Downs 22 years ago, talk about Jack Hare.
Well, he wasn't even in the media 22 years ago.
My point. He should have been learning from his
he
mentors, not coming on going,
15
oh, the light went on and I
You know,
learned
we
this.
were in the, but he was probably about 15, 22 years ago.
My point.
So, I mean, you know.
He should have grown up with this knowledge.
He went to medical school. Well, he should, and
Not
that's
going,
our
"Oh
job.
my
though.
God, the
That's
light
our
came
job,
on."
is to get the word out there. And we can't blame him for not finding out. You know, I got an opportunity to reach out to him back in 2009, and I did.
Right.
And even though I didn't never talk to him directly,
Right.
I told their reporter, Joe Johns, that I wanted to. And then he immediately followed up my segment and said he had an epiphany then. So I'm very happy now. And like I said, they're crediting our TV show with the bottles on that. You know, that they asked for photos about 5 months ago. I sent them a series of photos. They said they were going to put it in the credits.
I still think he looks a little Johnny-come-lately, a little silly, standing up after 20 years of everybody going, you know, medical marijuana has
20 years.
benefit.
He's been in about 5 or 6 years.
And he's going, oh, I have an epiphany. Here's some news.
Yeah. Well, you know, he defends himself there and says, you know, that most of the research done by the federal government, 9 out of 10 of all the studies, are to investigate negative things about cannabis, to distort the history of cannabis.
You know,
so he sees that media that's out there, and he doesn't feel the need to go search for more until he was prompted when I said I wanted to debate him back
I
in
know, but
2009.
If you would have watched Dr. Todd Bickery at any one of his conferences or specials, or even heard anything about it, or anybody even quote Todd, they would have made the very same comment that you just made now. You know, they spend more time researching the negative than they do the positive, because the money is always behind the negative. You can't get the better research. And now all of a sudden it's like an epiphany for him. But actually, that's exactly what Dr. Todd Bickery said 20 years ago. So I'm so glad that CNN has finally come into the light and finally come into the new century. Let's give them a hand.
Okay. Now, if you have a question or comment for us tonight, give us a call at 503-288-4442. And we have a telephone caller. Welcome to the show. Hello.
Hey, Paul.
Hey.
This is Jules calling.
Howdy, Jules.
Hey, Casper, kind of hold it down a little bit on Sanji, because Sanji can get to all these other doctors in the United States and maybe get them to understand.
Okay, so let's just give him a break because he can reach other people.
You know, that he's
Obama
got the
wanted
ability,
to name Sanjay Gupta the Surgeon General, and Gupta turned it down. You know, Gupta said, no, I don't want to be the Surgeon General. I want to still be a neurosurgeon and be on CNN instead. He probably makes a lot more money on CNN. But anyway, I'm grateful that he has had this change of heart, and I'm incredibly grateful that he's now reaching out and talking about it.
I know, but the knowledge that he's presenting is the same knowledge you all were giving 20 years
So
ago.
what?
Found on
But
Google.
he's got a lot more. He's got a CNN show,
Ooh, well,
Casper. So
okay.
let's not bitch him out. Don't you agree, sir?
Yes, I do. I agree that he was against it at one time, but now he sees that we haven't gone far enough. There are many more things that cannabis does to help people, and doctors are going to start to see this, and maybe they won't throw the opiates in everybody's face and start them on medical marijuana first.
Yeah, I agree. And there's hemp for fiber and fuel, and that's really where we're going to make an incredible change in the whole economic system.
And clothes, Paul.
Yeah, well, that's fiber.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about rope.
Now, this is the only fiber I have right here now.
I just wanted to let Casper know, hey, Sanji's a good thing for our movement.
I know he is, but it's a lot like me going on the radio show on Monday and going, hey, I just realized the sun really is out at 12 noon. My golly, and this is...
No, it's not like that. It's not like that.
Well, remember,
this
when
is
he
a
went-
radically different thing than something so obvious as that.
Well,
But anyway, thank you for your call, sir.
Good. So, thank you guys for listening.
Glad you called.
Thank
If you
you.
have a question or comment, call us at 503-288-4442. That's 503-288-4442.
I am impressed with the amazing production that's being held next week in Seattle.
Yeah.
Viv McPeak has outdone himself. He's got a great list of speakers, an amazing group of musicians that are coming on board. And anybody who misses this event is really going to miss the event of the decade, maybe the century.
Yeah. It's
Absolutely.
and I just have to throw in that THCF Medical Clinics is the presenting sponsor of the Seattle Hemp Fest, and our name's at the top of the posters and all over the place, and we're proud to be able to lend a hand to that. So it's coming up next Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We will not have a live show next week, but you can tune in the following week. We'll have a tape show, however, and we'll expect to record lots of new footage for the coming weeks from the Seattle Hemp Fest. And then coming up here in Portland, River City, we have the Portland Hemp Stock Festival that's coming up September 7th and 8th. We got John Trudell, Los Marijuanos, Real One, Bad Habitat. A lot of our community will be there, and we are thanking the sponsorship of Greenleaf Labs.
Absolutely.
But I'm pretty excited about that one too.
And this morning we had Mary Lynn and Al bring together some amazing minds from all around the world.
Did you have Dr. Raphael McCoolum on your show?
He was on the program today. Dr. Abrams was on today.
Well, let me just tell our viewers who Raphael McCoolum is, just in case they don't know. Raphael McCoolum is the person back in, I think it was 1972, who discovered THC.
Back when?
He works at Heat 1972.
Did you hear that?
He discovered THC, the active ingredient in marijuana, tetrahydrocannabinol delta 9. And then, hold it, let me go on. And then, 20 years later, in 1993, he discovered the endogenous cannabinoid anandamide and the whole new neuropathic, neurological system for the endogenous cannabinoids. And so that just opened a whole new window into the science of neurobiology and the study of the brain.
My point, which between him and the other gentleman who were on my...
So who else was on your show?
We had Dr. Abrams on today. Oh, amazing.
From the University of
Absolutely.
California at San Francisco Medical School.
Amazing researcher from Germany on today. Some guy on from...
Franco Gudemann.
Amazing.
I can't pronounce his name.
These people...
But where can they see it?
Well, wait.
Where can
these people were on my...
Find it online.
Timeforhemp.com. It starts to autoplay. But these people were on my little radio show. And I made, on my little radio show, made Dr. What's his name?
McCoolum.
Look, no, the guy with the G on CNN.
Gupta.
Yeah, look like a fluff piece, because on my show you can learn all the stuff that's been around for 20, 30 years. And you can go to timeforhemp.com and autoplay.
And you know what? We have a telephone caller. Welcome to the show, caller. Hello. Is the caller there?
Yes, I'm here. Are you there?
We are here too. Go right ahead, ma'am.
Well, I was just calling in with a little bit of information here that's kind of old to me. I have a son that is 23 years old. When he was 6 months old, for some reason out of the blue, I started having seizures one day. I was taken to the hospital when the head of neurological surgeon came in to see me 11 days later and throwed up some photos saying I have a brain tumor.
Oh, no.
That's what I said. How long's it been there, I say. He said, I'm the head neurological surgeon here in Dayton, Ohio, and I am telling you, I graduated from Harvard, and from the looks of the calcium deposit around the tumor, my guess is it's been there somewhere between 8 and 18 years. You should have had symptoms. Well, I never had symptoms because I always smoked marijuana.
Right.
Now I am finding myself in a very hard situation, as I had someone that was heroin sick, which I feel sorry for all these people that are hooked on these bad drugs today, and these to me are drugs and marijuana is not. Come to my house sick from not having and begged me to sell him 3 grams of marijuana. I did.
And did that help him with his withdrawals?
Yes, it did. But lo and behold, the sheriff knocked down my front door, kicked it in with a no-knock warrant, and I'm looking at it.
Where do you live?
In Ohio.
Oh, okay. It's really bad there. I'm sorry.
That's all right. I'm looking at a year in prison, 3 years probation. I'm not allowed now to, as soon as my doctor finds out, I'm not going to be allowed to have the benzos and the Tegretol that control my seizures, and because probation will take me off of them, and I'm not allowed to smoke either.
Oregon or Michigan or Illinois or another city that has medical marijuana.
Yeah, well, they've done kicked in my door. It's too late. They won't let me move out of the state now.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure. I go for
I've known a
the
number of
30th.
people on probation who said they had to move. So I just wish you the best of luck. I'm sorry to hear that.
Oh, that's all right. But
they set people up like that all the time.
Yeah, this does help with the seizures, and it helps. At least I'm not walking around like a zombie like I am on 3 Klonopins a day with Tegretol eating my liver alive. The marijuana did stop my seizures, and I just wanted to try to educate some people further.
Well, tell them, to save your life so you don't have to have a grand mal seizure, you need to move to a place where it's legal, and you want to move to Michigan. It's just across the border from Ohio. Tell them you'll come back and check in with them.
And I'm in Cleveland like at least twice a month, so I know it's real close.
Yeah, I know.
But I've been told I can't move. No, you'll do probation for 3 years.
Get a lawyer, or talk to the lawyer that helped you in that case. But I wish you the best of luck, man. I'm sorry to hear about that.
That's all right, but it does help with seizures, and it has me for the last 18 years because my medicines were never upped. And, the doses of them, and they said, to control my... As a matter of fact, I had weaned myself off of all of my meds, which I am now back on. So...
Well,
Good
I
luck
hope
to
you
everybody
get to
out there
move
who
soon.
has
Or they
any-
changed the
any-
laws there in Ohio, one or the other. Thanks for
Yeah,
calling. Good luck. I'm sorry. Thanks for watching, though, and calling and letting our viewers know what happens out in hinterland. You just moved, what, 2 years ago from Indiana?
Almost 3 now.
It's almost time flies when you're having fun.
It does. It's an amazing place to be here.
Hasn't it dramatically changed your life? It's a whole new ability to experience freedom compared to Indiana.
Not really.
Really?
Well, I don't go out, and I always smoke pot anyway. So only difference is I just don't get arrested here.
That's a pretty big difference.
That's a big difference, but I never put myself in a situation where I would get arrested back in Indiana. So
I see.
Now, if I was somebody who went out a lot and enjoyed the beautiful scenery here in Oregon, then I would say yes, it did change my life. But I'm so busy.
Well, don't
working
give up, Casper. We can hope that someday
but I'm so
you'll get
busy.
out there
Yeah.
and you can enjoy that wonder. I know you got to at least walk your dogs. I know you live right across from Reed College, so
Right. But
you
I'm
got to
so
hang out
busy
over
working
there.
on
It's not
time for
bad.
hemp and working in the hemp movement, I don't have time to go out and play.
You know, we have a little film clip we're going to run here in just a moment from Jorge Cervantes. Jorge Cervantes is a former Portlander, a friend of mine, and the author of Marijuana Horticulture. And if you want to find out more about Jorge, you can go to his website at marijuanagrowing.com. That's marijuanagrowing.com. So we're going to... Is that film clip ready? Okay, let's run that.
Full harvest is the payoff for all the research, work, risk, and investment you put into your grow room, not to mention the long, patient wait. A well-organized harvest is essential to ensure the highest quality cannabis.
The best way to tell when one of these buds is ripe is to look at the resin glands. The resin glands tell a story.
Get a close-up look at resin glands. Use a 10-power magnifying glass, jeweler's loupe, or a 20 to 50 power handheld microscope. Resin gland development will be in one of 3 stages: clear, milky white, and amber. The best time to harvest Sinsemilla is when THC production is peaked, but not yet started the degradation process. Sinsemilla flowers are mature 6 to 12 weeks after the photo period has been changed to 12 hours. Established indoor varieties tend to go through 4 to 5 weeks of rapid bud formation before growth levels off. Peak harvest takes place 1 to 3 weeks after growth slows. Avoid the taste of organic or chemical fertilizers in harvested buds by flushing with plain water or a clearing solution 7 to 10 days before harvesting. Do not water for a day or two before harvest. The soil should be fairly dry, but not dry enough so plants wilt. This will speed drying time by a day or more and not affect the quality of the end product. And most importantly, plan in advance where you will securely dry all that bud before you cut it.
Well, there's these guys sleeping right over there. I don't know who they are, but I want to keep it quiet. So here's the deal. We're going to harvest now. Get down here so we can see this, because what I'm doing is I'm going to just take these simple scissors and cut this baby at the base. It'll be a little bit hacking, but not bad, especially if I bend it and hack it. Here we go. Now, we're going to take this bud, this beautiful bud of Love Potion #1, over to the trimming teepee and put some nimble fingers to work.
Proper handling is the key to retaining THC potency after harvest. Prolonged exposure to light, temperatures above 80 degrees, friction from fondling hands, and damp, humid conditions should be avoided. THC exists only in the leaves, flowers, and glandular trichomes, lovingly referred to as resin glands or simply trichomes.
All right, boys. You're welcome. We're going to do a little show and tell now. That was Jorge Cervantes. You can find out more about him at marijuanagrowing.com. Right here we have some hemp seed oil and a little hemp wick and hemp oil lamp. And we've created in a little shot cup. It's the shot cup of fame, because this is we've been using this several weeks now to demonstrate the reason that marijuana is prohibited is to prohibit hemp fuel and hemp fiber. Fiber for canvas, rope, lace, linen, paper, and building materials. So when we restore hemp, without regard to its THC content, but with regard to the varieties of hemp that produce the most and best fuel and fiber and oil, then we'll wipe out or replace a lot of the need for petrochemicals, and it will reduce pollution and help our environment. And by using hemp fiber, we'll stop deforestation. We'll stop using cotton, which is counts for about half of all the pesticide on earth. What's your question, Captain?
One of the things that Jack Hare was concerned about when medical marijuana became a popular discussion and seemed to be the thing that leave the door open to end prohibition was that industrial hemp would be forgotten and overlooked and not even thought of. And it does seem that he was right, that so many states have ended it for medical marijuana, but we don't hear about industrial hemp.
We do, you know, Oregon passed an industrial hemp bill. There's 2 states, Washington, Colorado, that now have passed a bill that says you don't need a federal license to grow industrial hemp. We're putting out a petition that got 47% of the vote last year. We anticipate we will win next year to restore industrial hemp to its rightful place in our economy. But I wouldn't say it's forgotten, but it certainly was much more prominent, and because it was an ongoing and growing industry. But you know, let's talk about medical marijuana too. Here is a nifty little bottle from the Fraser Company. It's embossed on the back. It even says extract of cannabis indica right here on the top of the bottle. Close in as closely as you can there, folks. There's the Fraser Company embossed on the back. This is from 1910, and it's got probably about 50 little extract of cannabis pills in there. That's how they would give it out with this company, and we have a large example of those pills. And then last but not least, let's zoom out.
That beautiful
And we've got
book.
this nifty book. It's new Jack in the Box, Jack Hare, the definitive collection, limited edition that is out there, new version of Jack Hare's book. It's got this nifty little pop-out map for those of you who just love those things. You know, it just pops right out with a lot of hemp facts on both sides. Inside we'll find Jack's first book from back in the mid-70s about how to grade cannabis. Then the Emperor Wears No Clothes. It's had such an impact on our movement, a book that talks about industrial hemp. And then this video DVD of the Emperor of Hemp, which was produced by Anita Roderick, the founder of the Body Shops, several years before she passed away. So now we've lost Anita and Jack, but their legacy continues. You can get this nifty little book. Just look around and you can hopefully find it out there. Okay, that's our show and tell for tonight.
Nice.
So if you're out there and you have a question for us, you can call us at 503-288-4442. That's 503-288-4442. If you or a loved one need help finding a doctor who can help recommend medical marijuana, we have doctors all over the country, and we have a physician referral service. You can call us to find out more information about medical marijuana at 503-235-4606. That's 503-235-4606 here in the Portland area. If you're outside the Portland area, you can call us toll free at 1-800-723-0188. We're right in the process of setting up a lot of appointments in the state of Michigan in a couple of weeks right after the Seattle Hemp Fest. We're also going to be helping a number of Wisconsin patients get their Oregon, California, and Washington licenses. And we're looking at opening in New England soon. So for more information about doctors who can help you find medical marijuana, our local number is 503-288-4442. 503-235-4606, or you can call our toll-free number at 1-800-723-0188. That's 1-800-723-0188. Okay.
Well, while you hanging out with the good doctor at CNN changed his mind. It looks like my bromance.
I didn't hang out with him.
Well,
I did hang out with Joe Johns. He came and toured our film, and it was covered in about a 6 or 8 minute piece on CNN back in 2009. But at that time, I said I wanted to talk to Dr. Gupta. I never had that opportunity. But he appeared right after me on that show and talked about his change of heart. And he went from opposing marijuana as medicine in a Time magazine article during the Prop 2, the initiative in California in 2008.
Well, it looks like my bromance with Eric Holder has paid off. He's had a change of heart on the war on drugs. Did you notice that he has said that the war on drugs is causing all kinds of pain in our society?
It looks like, the federal government has backed off of cracking down on Washington and Colorado, and now they're talking about reevaluating the whole war on drugs. CNN's coming out and saying marijuana, we've been lied to for 40 years about it. The truth is finally coming off. Our hard work and education over our whole lives, and the people whose shoulders we stood on, like Jack Hare and Dr. Todd McCarea and Gatewood Galbraith and so many others. That effort has finally started to bear fruit, and we've seen it in the election last year in Washington and Colorado. We had a narrow loss here in Oregon with 47% of the vote. We got 61% of the vote here in Multnomah County, but the times they are a-changing, as Bob Dylan sang so long ago. But then again, that's the only thing you can ever count on. Things will keep changing, hopefully for the better. So if you have a question or comment for us tonight, call us at 503-288-4442. So what's up, Cass?
Had a great show today on Time for Hemp. It rocked. And we got more conferences coming up these next 3 weeks. Michael Krawitz is going to bring together a great international body of people next Friday that we're going to discuss the international treaties about. People seem to think that all you got to do is just like change Schedule 1 and make it Schedule 2 and just maybe pass a few laws in a couple of states and the war is over. I got news for you people. We're locked into international treaties. If you'll notice that there's been a couple of countries overseas now that have said, we're ending the war on drugs. This is stupid. And the UN just threw a big hissy fit and sent people in and went, I don't think so, because you're not in compliance with the United Nations and all of our regulations.
And that held some weight before Colorado and Washington State passed Amendment 64 and the Washington measure. But now, in view of that, since the main prohibitionist, the United States, has allowed some form of marijuana legalization, that really has freed the dialogue with the whole Organization of American States, including Uruguay. In fact, just this week, Uruguay said they were going to sell cannabis for $2.5, the equivalent of $2.50 a gram. Now, the market rate in Uruguay is $5 a gram, so they're going to undercut the market by 50%.
And it was just this week that the UN sent a body of people to Uruguay to discuss with the leaders of Uruguay than breaking the international treaties that Uruguay has signed with America.
But they haven't gone and talked to the governor of Colorado, and they haven't gone and talked to the governor of Washington.
I've noticed that.
Yeah, so time will tell.
Yeah, you don't send the UN in to talk to anybody in America. That doesn't go over too well with people in Birmingham.
President Obama is not getting a delegate of UN officials saying that they've got to, we've got to stop what we're doing. Then, we fund a lot of those activities.
Well, actually, he is getting a delegate of people from Time for Hemp. We set up this conference calling so that those people coming on board are actually in the mind that they are having a conference in front of Congress and the Senate and the world body. And that's another thing I think is really amazing.
So tell our audience who Michael Krawitz is.
Michael Krawitz has been working with the Veterans Administration so that veterans can get medical marijuana without losing their veterans benefits. There are many veterans who suffer from PTSD and all kinds of other horrific problems that.
And who are your guests next week?
I can't tell you.
Not sure right now?
They're all international names that I can't even pronounce, with more names in the alphabet. You know.
All right.
But,
well, we have a caller. Let's go ahead and take that call. Welcome to the show, caller.
Hi, yes. I was calling. I was thinking about setting up a grow system, and I was thinking, will it be the best way for me to go?
I like organic dirt myself. It's easy. It's forgiving. You know, the best thing is if you can use the sun in the great outdoors. You know, because that's the cheapest. You don't have to pay for wind and air. You don't have to pay for lights. It's a lot more environmentally friendly to grow outdoors. But if you're going to grow indoors, I would still recommend going organic in containers.
But if you're growing outdoors, you got to worry about people stealing your crop, wind blowing it down, hail beating it down, and there's a lot of problems out. You can also have better control if you do have an inside grow. I mean, there's a variety of good things and bad things about
You don't have the
both.
same spectrum of light, and it costs 5 to 10 times more.
That's true, and you do know because you do have
both
indoor and outdoor gardens.
You've got to have an indoor one to keep my strains going.
But you also have your gardens.
The plants.
Your gardens are highly guarded and surrounded by fences, and there's a lot of expenses that go into
Well, things will change. You know, there's a bill on the Oregon governor's desk to license dispensaries so that patient surplus can go directly to them. It's actually the best dispensary bill, bar what's happening with legalization in Washington and Colorado. It's the best dispensary bill that's ever passed. It's much better than the Colorado medical marijuana dispensary bill, which is incredibly cumbersome. You have to have a camera feed on your seed till your bud's all the way from seed to sale. And so the bill passed by the Oregon legislature doesn't do that at all. It also does not set a tax. It's the first marijuana dispensary law that doesn't tax medical patients.
Nice.
And so there is a fee, but a reasonable one to apply for the license to be a dispensary. And then, of course, there's a fee for patients.
So maybe the best way to grow is to get a caregiver.
You know, we have another caller, I believe, don't we? Welcome to the show, caller.
Yes.
Hey. How are you?
Hey. I'm fairly well at the moment.
Good, good. Thanks for calling.
Well,
Always
thank you.
something to break up the monotony of us talking.
Cell phones do that, you know, radio communications. Probably something in the ionosphere.
Do
you have a question? I couldn't wait.
Yeah, we got about 5 minutes to go, so what is your question, sir? Our statement.
Oh, my statement was that it seems kind of ironic to me that back in the 70s, I was given the choice of 5 years in prison or joining the military. And,
I remember those days.
I saw that happen to people.
Yeah, and I chose to join the military, and you know, after 25 years of service and
what year
all
was
sorts of crazy nonsense.
What year was that? If you don't mind, can you remember the year in the 70s?
Marijuana.
Do you remember what year that was in the 70s?
It was October 1970. I was given that choice.
Oh, 1970. Right during the Vietnam War and the draft.
Well, yeah, I almost went.
Uh-huh. I was silly
Turned
enough
out
when
they
Jimmy
took-
Carter was president in 1979 to voluntarily join the Army. So
I did it when Reagan
I hadn't even been arrested. But
I wasn't given a choice. Well, I was, but, you know.
I think you made the wise decision. What state was that in?
It's not something you look forward to.
Yeah. What state were you living in when that happened?
It was in Missouri.
Missouri, okay.
In St. Louis.
Yeah. I saw it happen to many people in Texas. Are you in the Northwest now, or are you in Missouri still?
Oh, right now I'm living in Las Vegas.
Oh, I see. Okay. So you're calling us from Vegas.
Yeah.
Okay. We are seeing patients in Vegas. If you know anybody who needs a doctor,
conundrum.
Give us a call.
Because if I get my medical marijuana card, then I won't qualify for concealed weapons permit.
Oh.
Even though I've had 25 years of practice with weapons.
You know, the Supreme Court, the Supreme Court of the United States upheld a finding by Oregon Supreme Court that they can't withhold your concealed weapons permit based on having a medical marijuana license.
Well,
so
that's
just
in Oregon.
Well, no, the Supreme Court of the United States. ruled that way about 2 years ago. And so they can't
Really?
do that anymore. They have to give you a concealed weapon permit whether you have a marijuana license or not. They can't even ask you
that's
anymore.
neat.
So they changed that about 2 years ago. So maybe you want to get a medical marijuana permit. And you know what? We have an office, and we'd be happy to help you get a medical marijuana permit right there in Sin City in Las Vegas. So if you're interested, give us a call at 1-800-723-0188.
Oh yeah, I've seen that posted on the website here. Well, I'm watching the webcast.
We have a couple of Nevada doctors, including Dr. Rabia Ahmed, that help patients periodically there in Nevada.
I mean, to qualify, all I have to do is walk in the freaking building. You know,
Well, give us a call, and then we'll have to fax in some medical records. But again, that number is 1-800-723-0188. You know what? We're down to just 2 minutes left, but I thank you for your call.
Oh, okay.
All right. Have a good night. Well, we've only got a couple minutes left, and John Cornette is ready to play some music. Anything you want to say in closing, Casper?
Thank you for tuning in tonight. It's really important that you all stand with us shoulder to shoulder in this foxhole and help us to end this prohibition. There is no way it's going to happen without your help.
And we are hiring people to be petitioners. Our initiative should be hitting the street in about a month, just before the Hempstock Festival next month. So if you're interested in being a petitioner or you're interested in being a canvasser to help legalize marijuana, call us at 503-235-4606. That's 503-235-4606. Or come into our office there at Sandy Boulevard and get involved. I want to thank you for watching. Tune in next week. We'll have a tape show because we'll be at the Seattle Hemp Fest. But help us restore hemp. Good night.
Now is the time. The time is now to tell the truth, to hear the truth, to know the truth, to know the truth. Oppressive lies and fantasies isn't how it has to be. And ignorance throwing stones like so many brains closed. Corporations, governments are rarely ever innocent. Ascension is the only way to live to see another day.